Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm Marilyn and my channel is Making with Marilyn. Now just a couple days ago, I unboxed and set up my xTool P2 CO2 Laser. I dropped a video on that, so if you're thinking about getting one or you've gotten one and you haven't set it up yet, you might check that out. But in today's video, I want to put this thing to the test. So we're going to do a few things here. We're going to engrave on a slate coaster. I've already played around with the clear acrylic. I'm going to show you that. We're going to use some 3mm basswood. We are going to use some walnut plywood. And then lastly, I use this in the setup video. We're going to figure out something to do with this extra corrugated paper. It's kind of like cardboard boxes you might get in the mail. So let's figure out something to do with those. Now, I'm not going to go through a lot of the design in this. Really, I just want to show you how it does on each of the materials. Now later, I will do videos on these types of projects, but for today, we're just going to get through several things and see how it works. Now, xTool is having a big Black Friday sale if you're watching this around the November-December of 23 timeframe. If it's another time, they have sales quite often. But according to the literature, this is supposed to be the best time of the year. So if you're in the market for one of these and you've decided to get one, I do have a referral code below. It also has a discount code. I don't know if the discount stacks on top of the sales, but if you use that, I truly appreciate it. It's good not only for P2s, but for anything on their site. Now my P2 is already powered on and I have it connected to my computer. So I'm going to go right here to the Creative Space software and I'll click on that to open it. Hopefully when it opens, it already sees that my P2 is connected, and it did. You can see the picture of the bed right there. So let's first go over here to Material, click on the down arrow, and then what I like to do is just click More, and then you can type in a word that helps you find it, and then click on Use. Now I'm going to bring in my image. You always click on Image here. And then for this one, I named it Test 6. It's just a cute little saying, coffee is my love language, and I want to engrave that on the coaster. So I'll say Open. All right, that came in really large, so with the proportions locked, let's go ahead and back up over this. And I want to change that to, let's start with 4 inches. I think that's going to be too large, but let's start there. And then let me change it to engrave so we can see it. Now this is all black on black, so it's going to be kind of hard to see. Let's go ahead and get a closer view. To do that, you click right here on Capture Close View, and then you just move this camera around to where you want it. So I'm going to put it right here. Now you might be able to hear the P2 making some noise. That is so much easier to see, and it's a really close-up view, so it's nice and accurate. That is still too large, so let's go ahead and select the whole thing, and then rather than use numbers up here, I'm just going to go ahead and adjust it from the corner. Then I'll move it over to where I think it looks good. Now I can tell my coaster isn't really squared up in there, so I can either go square it up, or I can use this and just barely twist it. All right, let's make that smaller yet. All right, I think that's about the right size. Let's move it over into place. Now there are some tricks that you can use to get this really centered, and when I do future videos, I'll show you what those are. Okay, I think that looks better. Let's just move it down. Hopefully that looks good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and capture the close view again, and I'll get just a little bit lower on this coaster. Okay, I think that's going to be fine. So now what I want to do is I want to click on my design, and notice this design is in several pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of them, go up here to Combine, and hit Unite. It's set on Engrave. if I wanted to score it where you just have an outline around each letter and everything, I could do that, but it's going to be so much more dramatic if we hit engrave. So because I picked stone coaster and engrave, it set the power to 12% and a speed of 500 with one pass. Now I do want to go down and see how many lines per inch there is, or lines per centimeter. That helps make your image clearer, like having more resolution. I'm going to go ahead and bump that up to 300. It's probably not necessary, but it's just what I want to do. Now I'm going to hit Process, Start, and now I can go over and click this button on top to start my job. Now that took a long time. That took 15 minutes. I want to do another one, but this time I just want to score it. I want to show you the difference. To me, it is worth the extra time to get it fully engraved, but you could do something where you score parts of it, you engrave parts of it. That would look nice too. All right, let me hit refresh. I have another stone coaster in there. All right, let me move this off. And let's do another close capture. All right, let's go ahead and straighten that up a little bit. Remember, I tilted it because that last one wasn't straight. I'm not so sure this one is either, but it's going to be fine. Okay, let's go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. So this time I'm going to click on Score. Now let's see what happened. The power percentage went up a little bit and the speed went down a little bit. But you can see you're just going to get a nice little engrave around the outside. Now I do have a way where you can kind of combine the concepts of both. I'll show that in a future video. So we'll say Process, Start. I'll go push that button. We'll look at this. We're going to look at all these things at the end. So I'll show it to you briefly after each engrave or each cut. But we're going to go back to the table and check everything out later. Now, if I didn't say before, I got those coasters at Walmart. All right, now we're going to use some 3mm basswood. Let me go ahead and say refresh. And then I'll go ahead and delete this design. Let's go ahead and bring in what I'll use for this. For this one, I'm actually going to do a dog Christmas ornament. Now, what did I call this one? All right, it is test 1. My niece's dog's name is Kevin, and so I got this image off of Creative Fabrica. Now I also got the image that I did on my coaster off of Creative Fabrica. I'll put links to all the designs I use, but I did go in and add the word Kevin to this and basically welded it to the outside of this ornament. So I'll say open. And it's right over here. Let's just put it up in the corner to save space or to save material. And I'm going to make it just a tiny bit smaller. I'll just back up over the 1.5, put a 0, and then hit enter. We're going to see how this does. Now, the P2 does have air assist, and so it should be a pretty clean cut. If it's not, I'll do a second one and I'll put some masking paper over the top because that helps keep it really nice and clean. So I need to click off of it and pick my material. Again, I'll go down to more, and I'm just going to say Basswood. It's the 3mm one, so I'll click use. Now if I click back on it, you can see that it decided, well, let me pick cut first. It decided to use a power of 100 and a speed of 30. Now I'm going to go ahead and get closer in so I can see if that's really on the material. Okay, that's better. And then I hit Command plus really to blow it up so I can see the details. Now the only reason this is more vivid than the rest of this is that's where the camera took the picture. I'm going to go ahead and move it over and save material, and then I'm ready to say process. That is so cute. Now that only took 72 seconds, and it's not quite as clean as what I'd prefer. So I'm going to do a second one. I masked it. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Also, did you notice how those spare pieces just fell through and went into that tray? I think it's going to be super easy to clean that up because you just pull the tray out, dump it in the trash, and put the tray back in. All right, so let's go ahead and say refresh. The other thing is there was actually more wood above it. You can see right here that I couldn't see in the view I was using. So I did waste some material, but I can use that for earrings or something like that. All right, I'm going to pull this one down, and again, I want to make it a little bit smaller. You can see my masking paper on the wood. I'll go ahead and do the close view with the camera. I really love that feature. This P2 has two cameras. It has one larger camera that's not quite as accurate, and then it has the close view camera right there by the laser head. And once again, we'll say process, start. And I'm not changing any of the settings because it's the same material. So I'm ready to go ahead and press this button and watch it cut. Now that one took 66 seconds, so that was pretty good, and the masking did help some. Now, one thing that I saw is in the cut, my design was so thin right here and a couple places here. It is extremely fragile. So if you're selling things, I would not have it be so fragile. I'll show you what I mean when we go back to the table. Okay, so you might have seen me move the slats around. Let me hit refresh, you can probably see it better. So I moved some slats in here so that it would catch small things better. And what I mean is, see how little these earrings are? I want them to be on more slats than just this far apart. So I moved some slats together right here. I'm going to go get my image. I'm going to cut and engrave some Jeep earrings. And I did already work on these earlier today, so this is not my first time to do this. Now these are some earrings that I did quite some time ago, and I did them in my Glowforge. I still have the design, so I wanted to see if they worked well in this too. Okay, so my earrings are somewhere up there. There they are. Let's go ahead and move these down. And for now I'm going to put them down here so I can see what I'm doing. I could have made the design better in the design software, but I need to adjust them in this software. And I'll show you what I mean. So I need to move this down on top of the layer that it's going to be engraved on, and this down to this one. Now the red layer, if I click right here, it selects all of the red layer. That's the engraved layer. But the first thing I want to do is go ahead and select my material. So I click on material, and I'm going to say more, and then I'm going to search for acrylic. Now you can only use cast acrylic. It can't be the extruded. It has to be cast acrylic. So don't make the mistake I did a long time ago. Go to Home Depot and buy some inexpensive extruded, because it's not going to work. It's going to melt. All right, so I'm going to say use. So layer 2 is my engraved layer. You can see it's going to engrave over the hole on the cut layer, but that's okay. Because the engraved layer is on top, it's going to be the first thing that happens. Here's my cut layer. If I wanted to reverse the order, I could just drag that up. But I always like my engrave to be first, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure it's on top. So we have the transparent acrylic. Now let's go ahead and move these up into place. That looks good. Let's go on layer 2, and I'm going to say engrave. It sets the power and the speed for me because it knows I'm using that clear acrylic or transparent acrylic. Now we'll go to layer 1, and I'll change the processing type to cut. Again, it sets it all for me, so I'm ready to say process. Then I hit start, and then once again I push that button and watch the magic happen. Now let's move on to another pair of earrings. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the design, and I will hit refresh. Now you're going to see some walnut in there. It is some xTool walnut plywood, but you do not have to use their materials. You can get materials at Home Depot, Lowe's, other places. Let's go ahead and bring in our image. I'm doing some more earrings, but this time I'm going to do them out of this wood instead of acrylic. And I think this is called Test 3. Yes, another thing I got off of Creative Fabrica. Let's go ahead and find our material. Now this is, I believe it's walnut plywood. Let's go ahead and search for walnut. I sure hope it is, because I'm going to use the settings for walnut plywood. I think it's this 3mm black walnut plywood. So I'll say use. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to say cut. It's going to do 100% power and a speed of 30. I need to do the same for this one, and we'll hit process. One more project after this one. Now because this is a darker wood, the little bit of charring there is wasn't a big deal, but I want to go ahead and do it again with some masking paper over it. Let's hit refresh. Also, I don't know if I showed this, but those only took, I think it was 1 minute and 18 seconds. That is really fast to have an entire pair of earrings that are super cute. Okay, I didn't change the material, so I can just hit process and start. Now lastly, it's time to figure out what to do with that corrugated paper. I'll hit refresh once again. Okay, here it is down here. Now, I found a tag shape on Creative Fabrica, and I thought these might make some cute rustic tags for Christmas or birthdays or whatever you want. Huh, I guess I never had a 5. That's hilarious. Okay, so let's say open. Okay, so I'm going to click off of it, and I'm going to go find that corrugated paper. So I click on more and start spelling corrugated, and fortunately it pops up because I'm not sure I would have been able to spell it. So I'll say use, and I'm going to say cut. It's going to do 100% power, 50 speed, and then let's go ahead and tell this one to cut as well. And this is our last thing to do. Let's go ahead and look at all these projects that we did today. So here's the stone coaster. I think that engrave is beautiful. That did a really nice job on it. Now it took a while, and so then I decided let's just score one and see how that goes. Scoring is just a little bit lackluster to me. There's just not much there. That's not the fault of the machine. It's because it is engraving just a hairline around everything. You get so much more drama here. Now, I do have a way where you can get a lot of drama. It's similar to scoring, but it's actually engraving a thicker outline, and I might show that on a future video. Let me know if you're interested in that. What it does is you still have this nice white or light gray, but it takes quite a bit less time. So then let's look at Kevin. This was made out of basswood. This is so tiny and fragile. So the good news is it actually cut it, and it cut it very well. Now I didn't have any masking paper on that one, and so if you're painting it, that really wouldn't matter. But if you're not painting it and you're not masking it, then you're going to want to do something like taking sandpaper and just sanding some of that char off. Okay, so you can probably see where we did have char up here. It looks a lot better. Let me show you that closer. All right, you see where there's some charring right here? Let me sand that just really lightly. And most of that charring is gone just that quickly. Now, I would be very concerned about sanding on this because, again, those are so tiny and so fragile. So now I can either leave it natural, I can stain it, or I could even paint it. Now, I did the second one because I wanted to have the masking paper over it. Look, I broke Kevin. I was taking the masking paper off, and I broke it. And down here, there's some charring. It must have gotten under the paper. But look at how clean that is using that masking paper. Up here, no sanding required. Okay, I think the next thing we did were these earrings. And let me put them on a dark background so you can see them. Look at that detail. So first I engraved, and then I cut around them. And you can see there's even some tiny little holes where your hardware goes through. Those turned out excellent. Then I did this other pair of earrings, and this was dark walnut or black walnut plywood. Even without the masking, those are gorgeous. And you don't see any charring because the wood is so dark. So on the next pair, I went ahead and I masked it. And I haven't taken that masking paper off yet. I wanted you to see it when I saw it. And you're not going to see a huge difference because, again, the wood is dark. But you notice, oh, now I don't know which was the front and which was the back because I dropped it. Well, let's look at this one. Anyway, you don't notice the charring so much because the wood's dark. But there it is. So I don't know, are you going to see a difference between the one that was masked and the one that wasn't masked? I think I do. I think this one looks a little darker because of the charring. And I think this looks a little bit lighter because of the masking paper protecting the top of the wood. Then lastly, I made these little tags. Now these are nothing to write home about. Let me go ahead and poke that out. But they're cute. And that paper came with the P2, so I needed to figure out something to do with it. And so I'm probably just going to make some tags, and then I'll use my own handwriting on them. I guess you could probably burn what you want onto them, but that makes them so impersonal that I'm going to go ahead and write on them, and then I'll use these as some nice rustic tags. Now I have a lot of other things in store to use the P2 for. One of the things that I'm really excited about is that you can use it on curved surfaces. And so I want to try that feature out. And then also you can get a riser base for it. What the riser base does is it allows you to cut or engrave things that are taller or thicker. And it also allows you to make tumblers in there. So I can engrave on tumblers if I have that riser. Look at that again. That is so nice. So hopefully this has answered some questions for you if you've had any questions about the P2. And then hopefully my future videos will answer additional questions. If you are in the market for an xTool machine, whether it's the P2, the M1, the new enclosed diode laser they came out with, the F1, check out my referral link. There's some sales going on right now, and they have sales occasionally, so check back often. If you use that referral link, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And you might be able to use the $80 coupon that I have in the video description as well. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you have a great day, and until my next video, bye-bye.